We're live.
And it is.
Yes, sir.
I'm thinking, let's start. Call the meeting to order. Call the meeting to order. Proof of notification and posting.
Yes, so, meeting was posted at the station as well as the county website. It was also posted in multiple media outlets. Notification, was made January 20.
Okay. Roll call. Cheryl Dull,
Present.
Todd Stittelberg,
Here.
Glenn Demeyer. Yep. Don Stanky. Yep. Jerome Durst. Gordon Palmer. Here. Barry Severson. Tim Willis. Doug Durr. Here. Gene Nix. Terrence Gender. Mary Ronhold. Tom McCarthy. Todd. Julie Fleming. I believe I counted 9. Got plenty. Right. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Could I make a motion to amend the agenda?
You can, but it won't have been posted.
Okay. And I would like to move that we add like a public comment, an EMT comment to our agendas, make that a permanent thing. You know, we always used to do that, and now it's not on there, and I don't think it looks good. I don't know if there's anybody here that wants to speak, but I think we need that on there.
Okay, I'll note that.
I mean, if it is the municipalities put a lot of money into the JAC, and I think if somebody wants to talk, it should be.
I'll make a motion to second that addition to the agenda and then approve the agenda. This is Cheryl.
I have an audience, I'm gonna have that one.
Just a second. Okay, so Dole made the motion to approve, subject to Gordon's amendment. Wow, Gordon made a motion to amend. Dole, did you second that motion to amend the agenda
I did.
for the recommendation to include those items in the future?
I did.
All right. And then to approve the, to approve the agenda. All right. Gordon,
I'll second that.
Gordon made the motion, right?
Yeah.
I'll second. Okay. We're making, the motion is to include in future agendas the public comment and EMT comment parts, and also to approve the agenda as presented. Is there any further discussion?
I'd like to propose one more amendment, 2021 and 2024 cost comparison or direct report. I do not have that report complete. I'd like to table that to our next meeting.
Okay, is that all right with the first person who made the motion? Gordon? He wants to remove an item on the agenda.
Which item was it?
2021 through 2024 cost comparison or direct report. I'd like to table that to next meeting. Julie is present.
Is that okay with Dahl?
Yes, that is okay.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Everyone have an opportunity to review the previous minutes.
The minutes that were enclosed are from December 3rd that we met on.
That was I think that was technically a subcommittee meeting.
See, on present, we have your own listed as present and absent.
So, Don points out that Jerome is listed as present and absent on December 3 minutes. And so then he was really absent.
He was absent.
So they need to be amended in that respect. With that amendment, any other changes? Is there a second to Don's motion?
A second.
Okay, so Don, minutes. Don, Todd, Alberto. All in favor of approving the minutes as amended, all say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Yeah.
Yeah, so Julie Fleming is here now.
Oh,
I've got Mary Rodenholt, she's out of type, is requesting if she can be a part of the speakerphone.
sure. So Julie Fleming is here now, and so is Mary. It's about 8 minutes after 7.
And so is Mary. What do you mean? Is that me?
Yes, you are present as well. You are on speakerphone.
I'm on speakerphone.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. And I'll be good. I'll be quiet.
It's
You
okay.
do
We're
it.
going to be quiet. I just wanted to note that we do have additional 2 people, and it was about 7:08 when we recognized that they were here.
Okay. So then, if it's okay.
Surely, yeah, absolutely. Item 6, director report.
Sir, and I'm going to do my best to speak up as much as I can. I had some oral surgery last week. I'm still healing from, and let's talk loud. I'm going to try my best. So first thing I've on the director report is 2024 review, and that kind of combines with the run data review as well. So the first thing you'll see in your packet is this little kind of speedometer looking gauge thing. So the first one you have in front of you is the 2023 average time page to on scene. The national standard for urban services, so services providing EMS in the metropolitan area, is 8 minutes. 2023, we were at 9.26 minutes. When you consider how rural our coverage area is, and how vast it is, I would say it's pretty impressive. And certainly a metric in which to pursue. Next page is the 2024, looking at that same data, we're at 7.53 minutes. So we've reached that target of the average below 8 minutes. And I'm mighty proud of our folks for making that happen. The only way we're going to continue to be there is our people showing up and doing good work. So very grateful for that. The next document that you have.
Does anyone have any questions about those 2 handouts? Kind of knock them off as we go through here.
Absolutely.
Things did you do to improve?
I set forth an operational directive that when we are paged to a call, our goal is 90 seconds from time of page to out the door 90% of the time. I leave a 10% buffer in there because there's times for backup calls, there's times for in-facility transfers, and there's times where inaccurate data does get put in. So that is that cushion there. But we set forth that goal. Number 2 is we adjusted the full-time schedule. So previously there would be 1 full-timer on per day and that would be supplemented with a part-time or paid call staff. We've adjusted that to having 2 full-time staff on pretty much every day with 2 permanent rotation people on Wednesdays, which was a Kelly day is what it's called. That's a day that no full-time staff work to avoid that 72-hour work week. And by fixing schedules there, we only have one vacancy on primary that we have to fill with part-time or paid-on-call staff on a weekly basis. So obviously, we utilize them to try and fill those backup requirements the best we can. But by having primary staff in the station has helped. Also implemented a policy that staff are not to leave in their personal vehicles for errands or to get lunch and that type of thing while on duty together. We start the shift together in the morning. If we need to go to a task, run an errand, go to the station, what have you, we do that together on the ambulance. That way we remain responsible and ready to go and meet that 90-second requirement.
Changes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments about those two handouts?
So the next handout you have, so this is utilizing the same data. So you could have seen in the meeting packet, it was a very, very busy bar graph. This one kind of simplifies it out a little bit more. So what this breaks down on the left-hand column, you'll see the number of incidents. So it's number of calls per month across the x-axis on the bottom. The y-axis on the right side is in reference to the black line with the bullet points that move up and down. So what the black line is showing is our average time, like this data before, from the time we are paged out to the time we arrive on scene. So it actually shows a monthly average. And then you have by month for 2024 of how many calls per month. So you will see that July was our highest call month in 2024. We responded to 110 calls in the month of July, with our busiest day with 10 calls for service. I will tell you right now, in the month of January, we are at 112 calls currently. We have had 2 days over 10 calls for service, one day over 12 calls for service. Our crews responded to 23 911 calls between Saturday morning and Monday morning today. Over the weekend, both Saturday and Sunday were both 10-call days. I will say that yesterday, Sunday, that was due in part to the CT scanner at the hospital currently being down. So we are on standby with them for emergency transfers for any patients with head injuries, head traumas, or requiring a CT scan. So 2 of the 10 yesterday, and there were in 40 hours today, were long distance emergency transfers from the hospital ER to another ER for the CT scanning capabilities. Even without transfer specifically today on this shift, we're already 3 to 4 calls in today, and no signs of slowing down. Our people are beat up, they're a little bit battered. We've been having to call in a lot of off duty to help cover these calls. We've had 5 all calls, so 5 times we've had to recall off duty staff outside of the upstaffing as it is over the weekend to cover those calls. I'm also happy to tell you that we have answered every single one of those calls. So between Friday and today, it's a total of 28 calls for service. We have not missed a single one. And that credit goes to our folks. Yes, sir.
What's going on? Illness?
So
What is there? What type of illness?
it's hard to say there's one over the other. Have we seen an increase in influenza A? Yes. But it's hard to say that that accounts for such a dramatic increase alone. There's also been quite a few traffic incidents and fire calls in which we've responded to. So it's been a very, very busy month. No signs of slowing down anytime soon. So last year, January, we did 88 calls, and again, we're at 112 so far. This January with a week left to go.
What was our total number of calls for 2020?
Our total calls for 2024 was, give me 1 second, tell you exactly here. Okay, so our total calls for 2024 were 1,131 calls for service. Our busiest month was July with 112 calls. I think I said 110, it's 112. And our average time of page to out the door time was 1.38 minutes. We're currently at 1.13 minutes.
What report was that you just reviewed?
This is the count of incident average unit notified by dispatch. I will, try and get a copy of that up there for you.
Yeah, was that emailed out?
This should have been in the package.
Yeah.
This is
It was?
so that bar graph that has the 2024 calls by day. This is the same data broken down into month versus day. To make it more readable, I couldn't get the other one to print into packet form to where it would be even legible. So I'm going to fire the tornado thread.
Any other questions about that bar graph here we're looking at? Otherwise, we'll move on.
Stuff that one, so I can get this over to you. I will make sure that everybody's got this document.
It's in the packet of materials.
It's the same thing that was broken by day, it's just broken by month. There's Mary. Made it up.
I'm here.
Okay, good,
Mary,
Mary.
can you mute yourself, please, Mary? We're getting some feedback. What questions on this graph? Anybody?
When we're talking about number of calls, our last meeting, you gave us a sheet that had the number of calls each municipality had.
Correct.
And I had questioned you about Richland Township
Yes.
because that was way too high, almost 3 times what we've ever had.
Yes, so that number did include Pine Valley. But now moving forward, we are signifying as Pine Valley is county as it pertains to those reports. So that will not be in any future reports counting towards Richland Township.
I was told that we have never counted Pine Valley, the jail, like the fair, and like when we go out with the fire department. Those were never billed to any municipality.
Understood.
Is that the way it still is then?
So if you previously weren't billed for those, that's not part of the MOU, and that's not part of the rolling average that you're currently paying on. And moving forward, is we're going to be discussing how the MOUs are structured, pay structures. That's obviously going to be a big part of taking into consideration. If it was never done that way, then
Yeah, so when will we get an accurate number for our municipality for 2024?
I am working very diligently with Image Trend in trying to get those specific locations out of Richland Township. So if I could break it down by, as you'll see, this next pie chart is incident location type. So what I'm working on doing is breaking it out to where it's only showing single family residence, doesn't show skilled nursing facility, doesn't show fairground. And that would eliminate any of those outliers for you.
Okay, are we on to incident location types?
I think hopefully that answered your question, but you're not currently being billed for anything you weren't before.
Okay,
If that makes
well,
sense.
well, like I said, that number that we were given had Pine Valley on
It did.
there.
I wasn't aware of that at the time, so.
Yeah, well, and I didn't know where Pine Valley went.
Yeah.
I thought that must have been why we were so high.
Gord and I had a conversation on this, and then the city administrator and I did too. There was some confusion, and he just described why. How are Pine Valley going? How are Pine Valley going?
From what I can deduce in the past is that was not taken into consideration when the current fee structure was set for Richland Township.
And that's
How we
fine.
decide to build that moving forward is the committee's decision on how to do that in the MOUs moving forward, but I know we don't set aside skilled nursing facilities within city proper. That goes towards the call volume for the city. So it needs to be uniformly applicable how we decide to move forward with that.
I agree. That's why I was just asking how, if they haven't been built to the township, how have they been built?
Absolutely.
That's my question. How have they been built? Mike, how have Pine Valley calls been built?
I cannot say based on the MOU, I can't find that data set that says there's this number of calls, including or excluding Pine Valley. There is no addendum on the MOU that eliminates those, and I have actually brought that up to County Board Chair Turk as well as Corporation Counsel to review those documents and figure out if it has been or has not been.
I mean, I know once in the past, a former mayor volunteered to have Pine Valley built to the city. And that's when I had talked to Todd, just wondering if they had been built for those over the years, or was that? And apparently it probably wasn't.
No.
And when we talk
It wasn't, but both the city volunteered.
skilled nursing facilities, we talk about assisted living facilities, we talk about memory care facilities. You know, that makes up for 20+% of our call volume. So that's a huge chunk. So definitely a consideration that needs to be brought forth when we discuss these future MOUs. I can't answer you today how it's been built in the past, but people are working on it, and
Well, that's what I was concerned about.
yes.
Make
So
sure.
I'm working on a separate report for you that Richland Township calls doesn't involve those, as it pertains to billing. Chairman Turk and Attorney Wendell are aware of it and looking into it.
And then your concern, Todd, was that the city was picking those up?
The question was, Gordon called and mentioned that when Paul Corcoran was mayor, that he had offered it. And so is the city being built? And we looked into it. It doesn't appear as though the city ever was built. I'm simply, this isn't aimed at Mike at all. I don't know what to say when I'm sitting in here and nobody can tell me how Pine Valley's been built. I don't know what to say to that. I mean, how can that be?
They were apparently never built. I talked to Darren Gudgeon and he said they just never built for those calls. You know, we paid $170 for every call in our municipality, but apparently the Pine Valley and the jail and the fair and standbys, they were never billed to anybody. They just let those go. And that was a lot of potential revenue.
Well, yeah, in terms of the county would then pay itself.
Okay, that's okay. Is that how that got done then? That makes.
I mean, I think that's what it sounds like happened.
Okay.
Still, further about that point, I was under the understanding that Pine Valley is in Richland Township, therefore they count towards Richland Township calls. I was not aware of a history of certain locations not being a part of the municipal boundaries that they're within.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, I think we're beyond that.
I'm not.
Yeah, I'm just.
We're just trying to clarify either that they've never been billed before, at which point then they're just sort of eaten within the organization.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking.
Yeah, and fair, same thing. Yeah, so we just need to clarify that.
All right, so, any questions on the incident location type pie chart? This is just a way to kind of break down where we go to most and how we go to. Next document you have is yearly transfer data report. So what this lays out for you, if you look on the left-hand side, is where these transfers are going to. So you can see then as it goes from ALS transfers, BLS, AEMT to BLS EMT, how many of those transfers went to those specific facilities and how they went there, either emergency or non-emergency, to kind of give a better grasp of how often we're doing transfers, what kind of transfers are out there that we're able to take, and the numbers on those.
And that would be for the full year 2024?
This is for 2024, that is correct.
So we add up all those, we have the total number of transfers.
Yeah, so the total number of transfers, I think I provided in the last report where we did,
52.
52. Thank you, Don.
Questions about that one?
Questions on the run data review is one bullet point. Billing update. We are up and live billing with Unified. So far, no major snags, no major snafus. We currently have 52 calls that are currently in active billing status with them. We have about another 48 calls that are in the QA process for us currently. And those 48 calls are within the last 7 days. So we're just a matter of getting caught up with doing quality assurance on as many calls as we're getting. So a little bit delayed there, but we got quite a few in the queue and quite a few that are in the billing process. I'm looking forward to seeing our January income report on EMS billing because we get deposit slips from the treasurer's office when there's a deposit to the account. And we certainly have seen an increase in frequency and value of those deposits. So that is reassuring. Also, we have initiated the full closeout with EMS MC. So they stopped billing for us on January 19th. They initially had stated that there was not going to be a lot of cleanup to do, but it appears as though they build up quite a bit in December. I don't have that final number yet because they need to do their month end and then we'll have that in the next meeting. But it looks like EMSMC had quite a few calls that they located during the closeout that were never billed. So hopefully we're up to snuff with that, and I'm going to be doing conference calls with them and going from there. So questions on the billing update?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
you were talking about January. What has happened in December? We've never gotten a report, our revenues or disbursements and what our end of month balance was for December of 2024. We've gotten those reports all the way through November, nothing for December.
My apologies on that. That was not intentional. It was an oversight on my part. I thought you guys had December, but that was a subcommittee meeting that we had there. And before the end of the month, therefore you couldn't have it. I can tell you right now, our cash balance rolling forward from December to January, $7,296. And we did.
Well, I'd like to see the written report.
Absolutely. No, I totally understand that. I can certainly email it out to the group this evening.
I know, I think that was requested. So this
It was
morning.
requested this
we'll
morning,
get
but
that.
according to that email that was sent out, that was not through the right channels.
Well, and the other thing to think about is they were running a lot of calls, and we weren't able to get to them.
Well, what about the county clerk? Doesn't the county clerk hear that report or somebody?
Trust us, Gordon, we didn't have time to get to it. We'll get it out.
Okay, December ended 27 days ago.
I'm offering you the best reason that we have at this time.
Brian, I'm going to be able to get it on the screen.
Okay.
Well,
Make sure it gets added to the packet as well. Again, I apologize. That was utterly oversight on my part.
So we don't try.
Well, it was
Just sort
comment.
of, okay.
Wisconsin Town Association. Board of Review meeting on the 7th.
Yeah.
How many? I'm sorry, 7th. Fine.
Yeah, you gotta have somebody that.
Yeah. I'm like Marty. Diane, maybe. Didn't seem to be any alternative dates either.
Only if you want to go someone else further west.
Yeah.
That would be tough.
I can't.
I believe I may have lost sound.
No,
No, we're in silence here.
we're meditating. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, let's just move on, Mike.
As requested, the next thing we have here are financial statements from funds 51, 16, and 47. For each fund, there is a breakout of expenditure and revenues. So in the top left-hand corner, you will see the fund number. So 16 is new ambulance fund. And then the next one, that is the expenditures for 16, you see 47, which is the ambulance equipment and training outlay. So that is for training and equipment, and that's where our state's FAP gets deposited, and those finances are tracked there. And the next one you will see is Fund 51 for revenues and expenses.
Question.
Yeah, Gordon.
On Fund 16, I just want to make sure you understand. We had set aside 40,000 for new ambulance. The 29,000, was that the replacement one?
That was the purchase price.
29, right? And then we had to do some mechanical work on that. Is that like the 15,000 something? Is that
That's
also on that same?
Yeah, that's on that ambulance.
So when Fund 16 has a negative balance, does that just remain a negative balance until we throw some more money in there? Is that what happens?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
So
I assume that 4,615 came from 151 or some other source.
So that, again, with Fund 16, so it was the ambulance replacement and then motor work as a residual balance. I did budget us to try and set aside $40,000 or $20,000 into that account this year out of Fund 51, which made with that anticipated deposit, they didn't zero out the line. Also, as Cheryl kind of brought to my attention, thankfully as well, we're working through our 2025, what we had budgeted versus what was approved and accepted as the budget. There were some differences between what was budgeted on my end versus what may have been approved. And we're working with Ms. Newberry as well as quite a few other folks on that right now to sort out some miscommunications, let's put it that way. But it's not just this, it's emergency management as well as we're doing our financial closeouts for all of our grants on that side.
Okay, so does that address 116
Not necessarily.
in terms of the negative number? And
I mean, yeah, I'd like to know what happened to that negative number. Did we have to balance that out at the end of 2024 by taking it from somewhere else?
I don't know.
I think we can, or is it still
So it's
a
really-
negative balance?
Just being clarified, if I'm not mistaken, February, March is when everything gets rolled budget wise.
Not sure.
Is when that happens.
You mean when this kind of thing happens, where they kind of straighten
Correct.
things out, we move from fund to fund?
Yes,
I'm not sure the timeframe of that.
okay. I believe Tam Newberry said it's February, March that all gets.
So it might, somewhere where we didn't spend that, it will go over to balance this out, that type of thing.
Yeah, I just don't know. I'm not going to answer something I don't know. 147.
Was 30,876.14, was that money that came from the ELTs Association?
Yep, so that was a donation there. What this does not reflect, because the invoice didn't get processed until after the first of the year, is the $27,000 in change for the year. So our January statement will reflect.
Okay, say that, repeat that again.
So we had the donation of 30,874 for that we utilized for gear for our folks. The invoice for the year, we did not get until after the first. And it's currently posted in process for this month, so that'll be reflected in the January statement. That invoice total is right around $27,000.
So that was pretty much an in and out transaction.
Correct.
So it happens to be in different years.
Yeah.
And who approved that expense? I thought every expense over 10,000, we needed county approval. Did they approve that?
So that expense was approved by donation and by motion through executive finance and county board.
In December.
It was donated with the only stipulation I remember on that was it was not to be spent on an ambulance,
Vehicle.
but, or on a vehicle. And, I don't know, it all went out and, yeah, that's something where we didn't have any say on.
Is earmarked.
No.
That's what the motion was.
Where do I end? I'm gonna. We did, yeah. $151.
$151. Receiving page. Here it is. So if you look at 151 at our expenditures versus revenues, so we had planned on / budgeted to do $1,126,724.50 in revenues. Actual, what we did in revenues is $868,975, which left a remainder balance of $257,749. That was the shortage of what we had anticipated in revenue versus what we did in revenues. We look at our expenditure guideline for Fund 51. We had budgeted to spend at $1,126,724.50. Our actual expense was $873,790, with a difference of $252,933 that we were under. So the total spend of that budget was 77%.
Meaning we spent less than what we anticipated.
Correct, but we also took in less than we anticipated, and we kept the expenditures matched to the revenues throughout the year.
Well, I have another question.
Sure.
When I look on there, where they have like, dental insurance, health insurance, life insurance, section 125 plan and county share. The county isn't paying the dental insurance, health insurance, life insurance, are they? The JAC, we are.
So those funds do come out of Fund 51, that's what they're budgeted for. All of these budgets that have salaries on them say co-share on there to split out what the employee pays versus what the employer pays. And if a verbiage change on there, could make
That's
it
just
better.
what it means.
That means that is the employer share of that cost.
Which is the JAC.
Well, they're employed by the county, but yes, it does come out of Fund 51.
They're county
The
employees.
JAC is the county committee. The money that's earned by the ambulance service in providing service is county money.
What about the
And,
money?
and the money that's paid by the townships is for having the service provided.
Trying to tell me that money the municipalities put in, none of that goes for their.
I didn't say that. I just said there's three sources of money.
I mean, we're putting money,
All of us put money into this. Yes.
and the county gets the credit for it, seems like. It's a county share.
It is meant to demarcate the amount that's paid that isn't paid by the employee. That's all that means. Yeah, and it's paid from
Through the ambulance earnings and the municipality.
contributions. Yes, and that's how that goes. Been like that for years.
Well, I just wish they'd say JAC rather than county.
Well, I think everybody understands.
The employee.
Yeah. Any other points anyone wants to make about that?
So we look at the revenue guideline. If you look at line 4803, Fund 51 revenues. That's the ambulance contract due from towns, which includes the towns, villages, and cities we provide service to. As you can see, that's a total of $161,920 annually.
Yeah, where are we at again here? Sorry.
So we're at the Fund 51 revenue guideline, which is this one here, the short Fund.
Oh, there
51.
it is. Okay.
What line are we looking at?
So I'm sorry, yep, it's the ambulance contract due from towns, line 4803.
There.
I don't have that.
I don't have 40.
I don't have that now.
51. We're good.
Oh, it's not in order.
Oh, it's up.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
You got it.
as,
Got it.
everybody else know finding it?
I
Some of
got it.
intergovernmental funding.
Yep, so just, so for, again, our adopted annual operating budget for 2024 is $1,126,724. The fees from the municipalities, as part of the MOU, was $150,790. We still have $8,585 uncollected from townships on unpaid MOU invoices that are standing going into 2025. Another conversation that we can have about these MOUs moving forward is if the towns and cities, municipalities feel that they want their contract dues earmarked for something specific identified with the MOU as mutually acceptable, we can certainly have that conversation. But right now, as it stands, it's hard for me to take this $150,790 and say, this is specifically where this fee from this township went to this budget line from this instance of the state.
Sure.
Love to provide that for you. No, I don't know how to.
It just goes in the pot of money that pays for everything.
Yeah. It's fee for service.
And again, too, I think 252,933 shy of what we had budgeted for the year is exceptional in itself. Any other questions on these? December cash report will go out to the community manager. I want to get back to the office too.
Organizational chart.
So I know the meeting which I had to leave for a call. This was next up on the agenda items, and it was requested to re-present the organizational charts at a future meeting for further clarification or questions. I'm here to answer those if any are had.
Why are there three charts? Explain the differences.
Yes, sir. So the three charts, the first one was from the county board level, county administrator to EMS and emergency management. And that was, these documents were requested by the former administrator at the time of how does that chain of command look? The other question in that is, where does JAC lie with the chain? This is specifically from the operating authority from the county board to the county administrator to my position. The second chart is the Department of Emergency Management. So a part of the reorganization that we're working on, rather than have Richland County Emergency Management, Richland County Ambulance Service, we're going to combine those to the Department of Emergency Services. Under the Department of Emergency Services, you have the Emergency Services Chief. That is a direct report to those governing authorities, county administrator, committees, boards, etc. And under there, you'll have separate divisions. So you have a Division of Emergency Management, which will then have a leadership chain within there. So this one shows the emergency management chains. Chief of Emergency Services goes through the Emergency Management Coordinator, who oversees LEPAC, which is Local Emergency Planning Committee, as well as HAZMAT. Next one is EMS. So you have the Division of Emergency Medical Services, and then EMS is broken up into two further bureaus, if you will. So you have administration and you have operations. So it breaks down the administration ways, the captain administration position, that is Captain Goplin's position, and he oversees the part-time casual staff, as well as the administrative secretary, as well as paid on call staff. Then you have your operations division. We'd have a tentative captain of operations position that is currently not filled. We don't currently have a position for that. Below that, then is the full-time staff. So with not having an operations captain, I currently also, part of my administrative duties, I oversee the operations, the day-to-day operations of the department, as well as strategic planning. and also oversee the full-time staff. That was the best we were able to kind of break it out when we look at the amount of hours spent on personnel, visiting bad things, dealing with planning, day-to-day stuff. And that's how we're able to break it out and try and balance out workload the best we can.
Now, where does the medical director fall in here?
Yep, so the medical director,
Under his license.
correct. So this was specific to the county operation of the department, and that's what I kind of drafted this towards. But the medical director is who I report to because I do operate under his license. So these are not all inclusive. These are the proposed ones that I was asked to provide to the county last year. Certainly still a work in progress, but this is what we're working towards.
Where does the JAC fit in this?
And like I stated, that is what I needed answers to and why we've had the meetings about the role of the JAC of where does that go in this one? Where does that go in this one?
Yeah,
These are
I
not-
mean, I see it in either.
Correct. And that's fine. These are not final. This is why County Board of Public Safety, Executive and Finance has not seen these yet because there's other bits and pieces that are not in this. I acknowledge that. I could have easily left these off to avoid that conversation, but this is what I have right now. We need to sort through with the county, like we talked about, future meetings of, is it a subcommittee? Does it work toward the standing committee? That would change where it is in the structure. Hopefully that answers your question.
I don't think it does because we're still here. I mean, we still exist. So why are we not on there at all?
Because I cannot get a straight definition of where it belongs in this chain
From the county board? What do you?
from anybody involved.
We haven't had a chance to do that yet.
I understand, but that's why these are not final. These are in draft. The JAC was not intentionally left off to be somehow inherently eliminated. That's not why. This was specifically asked for the structure of each department as we're approaching the wage study as well as the restructure. It's not in there because I don't know where to put it. And these are not going to public safety for anything further for adoption because we don't have it figured out.
I mean, according to the contract that all of the municipalities are working under, they can't change any of this agreement between these parties unless it's amended by a written document signed by both parties. And it seems like they are making all these changes and we aren't agreeing or signing to any written document.
And this is no attempt to amend any of the MOUs. This is no attempt to move the JAC along. This is none of that. This was a document that was asked to draft, have submitted within a certain time frame. I was not sure where to put the Building Ambulance Committee in that. And this was also drafted July of last year. So if you can remember, a lot of the conversations were happening around that. I'm not certain we've made a whole lot of progress forward in getting those questions answered.
No.
I
I mean, it would be nice if the county had come to us and asked what we feel.
I move this forward and have this structure adopted and official in place by now. But the reason why I haven't is because I want to make sure the JAC is in line where it belongs.
Me too.
So please know that.
One possibility is that when we get to the point of presenting goals and priorities to the personnel and finance, or whatever they call that committee now, and to the county board, that we can maybe get some direction as to what the county wants to do with respect to JAC, what the JAC wants to do with respect to their role.
What does the committee on committees do?
They figure out what positions need to go on committee. So if there's an opening on a committee, then they'll figure out who's going to be on that committee. They review it based on preferences of what people put on their forms, but also how many committees they're on, that. So they meet only periodically as needed.
I just didn't know who we need to talk to. Is it the committee on committees? Is it?
No, that's just to place people on a
Oh,
committee.
that's all. All right.
So like if a board member would resign mid-season, then they would decide who would take over those committees for them, you know, until maybe somebody in that position was filled or like. So it's just to assign people to committees.
Um, and the monthly call data,
That's
it's already been reviewed. Or no?
I'm gonna go over this list up here.
Okay, go ahead.
So the next two sheets that you guys have, I know it was kind of stated that we really care about duty crews, but I wanted to make sure that I shared this with you. Duty crews is something that's a part of the organization in the past. It's something I've reinstituted in 2024. The goal of the duty crews is to recruit a lot more interworking between full-time, part-time, casual call-in, and day-on-call staff. And basically what this outlines is each duty crew is based off of the full-time rotation. But what they do is every month they try to get all the people in their duty crew together to do the monthly rig check on the ambulance that they're assigned. So this inherently causes people to get together. One full-time shift is not responsible for doing a monthly check on 3 ambulances on the first. And it gets folks that may not be able to cover a lot of hours or make a lot of calls. It gets them hands-on in the back of the ambulance, recruiting some of that familiarity of where things are. The other thing I've encouraged our duty crews to do is make plans outside of work. Go out to dinner together, go bowling, go do something, build some of that team dynamic. It doesn't have to be work official to get your crews together. We want our people to be close inside and outside of work if that's something you want to pursue. And then following that, I know a roster was requested, so this is our current radio roster that we have. So it'll show you who's assigned to what shift or who's hired in what position here on the right-hand side. Left-hand side, obviously, is names. We have license level in the middle, and then the radio ID number right there. Questions, comments, concerns on those? I know these are specific requests of the committee, so I just want to make sure that they're recording.
This is the most up-to-date one, because this is, it says updated 9/5/24.
Yep, so there's one driver is now retired, but we try to update these quarterly, so this month will be an update month for it. But we haven't had a lot of movement in hiring.
Yep, go ahead.
Towards the bottom, J Baker, it says EMR. How is
That's-
it different from an EMT?
Thank you so much. That's emergency medical responder. Perfect, thank you so much, Tammy, I appreciate it. So that's emergency medical responder, so an EMR is very similar training to an EMT. But they cannot transport alone in the back of an ambulance. So it used to be called first responder, now the license level is EMR. But what they can do is if we have a backup call, so a second or third call for service, if they're partnered with an EMT or advanced EMT, that actually makes it legal.
And then I see you have 6 EMTs with the, now, would those be people that are at the ambulance building, like an 8-hour shift or a 10-hour shift every day or night?
Are you talking, which,
Well, like
I don't know.
are you talking to the town call group?
on that list, well, some are AEMTs. I know those are paid on call, but the regular.
We're
EMTs
limiting the discussion here to members. So,
So, and I'm just gonna run down license level real quick. So we have paramedics, advanced EMTs, and EMRs. License level doesn't dictate necessarily what employment status you are. So for example, the A shift, B shift, and C shift, those are all full-time folks. Part-time casual is about 24 hours a week on duty. Paid on call, we have some paid on calls that do shifts at the station. We have some paid on calls that will cover backup shifts from home, and we have some paid on calls that will respond in for all. So there's not, unfortunately, one answer to everybody. The folks on A shift, B shift, C shift are the 24-hour rotation. The part-time casual are 24 hours or less a week. I want to say a quick thank you to Ms. Tammy Hendrickson, who's a payroll specialist. She was able to gather for me the December cash report and get those printed out for you folks. Those that are online, I will still email this out. Yes, sir.
You have some EMTs that are also can be drivers.
So the drivers are down below, so if they're listed as driver, they do not have any licenses.
Right, but I mean, you have some EMTs that are also can be drivers, because you said there's now somebody's retired, you only have 2 drivers?
So, yeah, so if they're an EMT or AEMT or paramedic, they can drive and they can do point of care. You have to be able to do both. This is our thing, so our driver status folks are people that want to serve the community, want to volunteer, that aren't interested currently right now in having a less licensure.
Right, so the other ones can drive, so the reason for that, the other ones can drive if for something happens, I mean, if you only have 2 drivers, that's a lot of hours for 2
Correct.
drivers, so there must be some EMTs that are also.
Yeah, in order to make a legal crew, we have to have it minimum, for the primary ambulance has to be minimum EMT and advanced EMT for the first out ambulance. Second on ambulance can be an EMR and an EMT or EMR and AEMT. What we utilize the drivers for, if we have a more critical call and we need both the EMT and AEMT and back, we need a driver, great. Another thing that we utilize them for is when we have severe weather nights or bad storms or long distance transport, they'll come in and drive for us on those nights and take some of that burden off the crews. Dean has just recently retired, and we're really happy for him. He's retired down in Texas. But Tom Coleman not only is a driver, he's also our chaplain. So he does serve in both those capacities. That's what I have for director reports. Monthly call data, we talked about January a bit already. It's been an insane busy month, so grateful for everybody that's coming together, making sure we're getting it done, the calls are getting answered.
Can we look at the report?
Yes, sir.
The We Energies, what is that?
Natural gas, that's correct.
Okay. My question, does emergency management, are they paying a portion of heating bills?
So many are utilities as well as certain office supplies and anything that is shared between departments is split.
So they are paying
They do.
their
Yeah.
portion of the heat and insurance on the building.
Correct. So content has separate budget lines for all of those things as shared costs. And that's where the initial proposal for the shared costs replacement vehicle between EMS and emergency management came forth is we're already sharing costs on so many things.
I noticed like last month, I think we had a quick trip billing. Was that much for fuel at Quick Trip? Did we not get any fuel at Quick Trip December?
So how the quick trip accounts roll, I think, are the 15th to the 15th, which offsets it a month. So you'll have 1 month reflective of 2 quick trip bills, and then the next month it will not reflect a quick trip bill.
Okay. And are we getting all of our fuel now from Quick Trip, none from Premier? Or
Correct.
We're done with Premier.
Correct.
Mike, you remember several weeks ago, you and I spoke, and there was some money due from the city, and we realized that invoices hadn't been sent. Remember that?
Correct.
Is that all cleared up now? Are we all current?
Yep, so February 1st, the 2025 invoices will be going out to everybody.
So everybody should be current on what they owed and paid in.
Yep, so city's completely clear. So by doing the monthly billing with you guys, we'll bill you on the 1st for the prior month.
Thanks.
Yes, sir. But that is reflected, if you look under receipts for City Works and Center.
Understood. I just want to make sure we don't get back there and then, you know,
Yeah.
that was a new policy in place. You just described it.
Yep.
So we won't do that twice.
Yes, and I was not aware that we were invoicing for the other, so that was.
I remember and so is there any like townships, anybody else that has an issue like that?
So anybody that needed to be invoiced for 2024 has been invoiced.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Another comment. Looking at our receipts and our salaries, our payroll. There were only 4 months the entire year when our receipts exceeded our payroll. And those were the months when we got big municipality payments. I mean, the only reason, again, why our receipts exceeded our payroll and gave us 4 months is because Richland Center put in, over $28,000 there. I mean, we have to look at the amount of money we're spending and where it's going, people.
well, it's pretty obvious where it's going, Gordon. You can read the disbursement.
We gotta look at that and,
Yeah.
and question things a little. Brian?
I understand where the money's going.
I don't.
Okay.
I mean,
You should make an appointment and come in and talk to him if you have problems understanding where this money went.
Okay, but I think we need to look at it a little closer. Where can we cut back? I mean, we can't be.
I think we need to look at the fact that ambulance service in our county and in many other counties has been underfunded for a number of years. And then in order to provide service at an acceptable level, it's going to cost more. So the discussion needs to be, where are we going to raise that money?
It seemed to have hit us all in 2024. And up until 2024.
That's been underfunded for a number of years, but if you look
But
back,
we always had a balance.
but if you look back at what happened in 2020 and the progression that was going on before 2020, and when we got to 2024, and now we're into 2025, wages have gone up. And we have tried to track that. So we're paying our people more. Everything we buy is more expensive. So the expenses that we had 7 and 8 years ago are much, much higher now for the same stuff that we used to buy. The service is underfunded. We were operating with a volunteer force primarily back in 2015. That's changed now. We're almost all full professional, this is my job type of people. You have to pay them, and we are. So the money is going to become more tight until we make that transition to get our service properly funded.
We also had a lot of collectible accounts too that, looking at the report, 170,000 uncollectible. So, I mean, it's in our collections as well.
$250,000 in projected revenues we never saw.
What's that?
And 250,000 in projected revenues that we didn't see.
Right. Yep, and it's obviously in the billing, we obviously had to switch the billing a couple of times, trying to get caught up on that. Looking at this December one, there was nothing received from 2023 accounts, which kind of strange because that was all getting caught up in
We've
2023.
been waiting 2 years to get caught up and we never have.
Well, I know, because we've had to switch accounts or switch providers, obviously, and had several issues. So hopefully we're with the company we're with now, things will go much smoother and
And I'm all about looking at cost saving potentials, but to say we're already running slim is a bold understatement. I think the fact that we finished the year at 77% total budget usage instead of 100%, I'm pretty damn proud of that fact. I think the fact that we never hit zero, that we identified the billing problem when we did, we made the transition when we did, we figured out some municipality maintenance when we did, it caused us not to hit zero. We didn't have to get a bailout. And honestly, moving into January, I'm excited to see what that final statement says in January for balance moving forward to February 1st. I am trying my damnedest to make sure that I am being a good custodian of the funds put forth by the people that we serve through their billing and the municipalities that pay in. At the end of the day, $150,000 for operating a service 24/7. We haven't dropped out of it. We've showed up. We've been there for your folks. We will continue to do so. The fact that we are able to do it for what we're doing it for, I think is impressive to say the very least, and I'm damn proud of it.
So the comments, the discussion that's been had pertaining to organizational charts, all these last 15 minutes, Attorney Mike Wendell just logged in. If anybody has any questions for where the county stands on any of this, he's with us now because I texted him and asked him to log in. Does anybody else have anything to say?
I do, yes. We're talking about monies. We still haven't seen the budget for 2025.
I don't think that's a attorney question. I think he was asking.
No, it's not, but I just had a comment.
Well, I would move on to the next item on the agenda, discussion and possible action on the county Joint Ambulance Committee 2025 goals and priorities. I rewrote those in accordance with our discussion back in the last part of December. And I see Mike added in item 11.
Mr. Chair, I think when we met in December, we wanted number 4 to be number 1. And I think we want that discussion before December 31st. Like we want that discussion.
I didn't try to put them in any kind of order. I don't think
Oh.
there's a ranking here.
Well, I think at that meeting, though, we said that should be number 1, and I think you were the one that even reiterated it should be number 1. So, with that being said, I think that's something we need to discuss now.
That was subcommittee recommendation for full committee, and that's why it's drafted. When we move stuff around based on recommendation, wanted the full committee vote on that, if that makes sense.
Okay, yes, my recommendation is move number 4 to number 1
Okay.
Happy to do that.
and change beginning where it says 2026, change that to 2025 and take the whole last sentence out. And if you got that, I got a couple other notes.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said.
So move number 4 to number 1.
Yep.
Change, and the end of that first sentence where it says beginning in 2026, change that to 2025 and strike the whole last sentence.
Well, we're
That's
in
my
2025 now.
Right, but we need the answer now, not 2026.
Well, it means that if we were gonna be a standing committee again in 2026, when the new determines, I think is what this.
Exactly.
Meaning.
But the only way to make decisions, we were told, was if we are a standing committee. So currently, the contract is not being met.
That would be your interpretation. I defer to council. I disagree, whatever.
That's a lawyer question.
Yeah,
Mr. Wendell,
So
did
that
you-
was
I'm
my
sorry.
recommendation there.
Mr. Wendell, did you hear that?
just hold on, Cheryl.
Okay.
I heard that there's a contract not being upheld, which would not be something I'd be able to comment on in the moment. I'd need to review the exact allegations.
Okay. I think it's worded just fine as far as the dates that are in there. I think it makes sense the way it's written. If some people want to vote and change it,
This was written not as a ranking of these, just as a listing of them, correct?
oh, that's correct. But if you want to move 4-1, I don't care.
I'm just pointing out it wasn't intended to be like an order.
No.
It's just a full listing of them.
Yeah.
But thank you.
But as far as changing the dates, I think the dates are correct as written.
That's because a change that would make this potentially a standing committee would take effect at the first of the year 26. Is that why?
Correct.
Thank you.
What are the changes that you suggested, Cheryl?
Okay. So I think it was so beginning in the process of to create specifications for and acquire an ambulance in 2026 and in 2027. Just without reviewing our budget any further, I don't think we can do both years. I think we need to strike one. And then put as a sub A under that, utilizing long-term borrowing or lease to own financing arrangements. Otherwise, there's no way we could do one. I think we're well aware of that.
6C.
Yeah, that's covered in 6C.
Well, yeah, but that's under medical equipment, vehicle gears, supplies, and equipment. I mean, I know it's under there, but I think it's also appropriate under the ambulances, but I think we need to take 1 year out. I think we need to change it 2026 or 2027. I just don't think there's any way we can financially afford one both years.
My opinion is these are goals. And if our goal is
Right.
to get one both years, then you put that in there. If ends up we can only do one, then we only do one. Your goals should always be what you would like to achieve.
Well, I understand what we would like to achieve. I don't think it's even feasible to assume we can do that, though.
Well, I can guarantee you if it's not feasible, we won't do it.
Right.
How can you guarantee that when right now, I don't know what our duties are as a JAC. That still has not been, I mean, it's clear in our memorandum of understanding what our duties are. But I don't think that we are doing our duties. We haven't, somebody else has been doing our duties. It says oversight of all expenses paid from this segregated account, account 51, will be provided by the Joint Ambulance Committee following procurement rules as established by the county.
Can
That
you tell
says
me, how that has anything to do with goals and priorities?
We're going to enter into discussions with the county to determine duties for 2026. What about 2025? What about our duties for 2025, which we're entering into right now?
We've been trying to have that discussion since about midsummer last year.
Yes. Why haven't we?
I am thinking that hopefully, before we get too far into this year, we can actually have those discussions and get this resolved going into 2025.
Well, we gotta schedule a meeting and we gotta do something, and somebody from the county board's gotta come and sit down with us, and we gotta work this out. because
Okay, I
We
think,
have an agreement that's not being upheld.
does anyone here besides me think that you've talked about this once in this meeting already? That you've talked about it in several other meetings
And
before?
nothing's being done.
And maybe
I'm
it's
tired
time
of
to move on and get this done. Because you're tired of it, and I'm tired.
We're doing goals for 2026, and we can't even figure out how we're gonna run 2025. That doesn't make sense.
Okay, well then let's move on the 2026 goals and priorities. Cheryl's had some input. Anybody else want to say anything?
2025, discussion about the JEC roles and responsibilities was discussed at length
That
at the
was,
subcommittee meeting. And it was determined by the subcommittee, recommendation by the subcommittee, that it be a main priority moving into the first quarter of 2025 to schedule the meetings in which were needed to figure out the roles and responsibilities of the JAC.
okay, that
Like I
wasn't
said,
on our agenda tonight. Why wasn't it on
It's
our
the,
agenda?
it's the goals and priorities
That
we're
was the
talking
goals and
about.
priorities discussion.
In any event, we can either spend
And
time.
is there additional verbiage in number 4 that would, that's what number 4 was about, was having that discussion in 2025 so we can get this figured out.
We shouldn't have to discuss our duties for 2025 because we got a contract we've been working under for the last
All right,
years.
go ahead, Don.
I think on number 6, we should just add a comma after vehicles, and then we'd have that covered with the long-term borrowing and everything that was said.
How about medical supplies?
Call it
A medical vehicle?
durable medical equipment. Vehicles,
Just add vehicles in that area.
gear. And then do a subset there identifying goal 2006 or 2026 or 27, or both under that subsection.
Put that under one of these Cs or make it a D.
Yeah.
So if you redid 6 like that, you could actually strike 5.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
The working relationship with Richland Hospital, that was unchanged from 2024 goals. I think we're going to continue working on that, like identified the subcommittee. We'll be meeting with the nurse manager at Richland Hospital now monthly moving forward. We did have a meeting at the beginning of this month with the hospital CEO, as well as the contracts manager, as well as the director of nursing to go over setting up, renewing an interfacility service contract with Richland Hospital as well. So that's currently in process.
Any
And then,
other?
sorry, 7A, does that need to remain a JAC goal, or is that something that we need to toss up to the county level? How would we want to?
On 7A, I thought maybe instead of county, it should be a JAC representative.
Noted. Okay, added. Anybody opposed to that?
No.
That makes sense. I think C, amendment, accepting as many eligible transfers offered instead of setting a percentage on there. It's hard to say how many transfers are going to be offered, when they're going to be offered, how they're going to be offered. I think putting a percentage on there is maybe setting a metric in which we can't meet, but Our goal is to take as many as we possibly can, and I think continue forth with that. It's hard to say 75%.
Well, I agree with that.
Can we say 50%? How many did we take this year? 2024.
I don't think I'd put a percentage on it for the reasons that were just given.
In 2024, we took a total of, I think it was 38% that were offered. But I know in the business plan, it says that our goal is 365 a year, and that's about the number in which they send out. A good chunk of those could be sent out at the paramedic level, or when they're sending out a lot of people is usually when we're busy. Without having 2 ambulances staffed, I cannot hold myself to, well, a goal of 50%. Again, it's a goal. That's great.
Can we do something like accept a higher percentage than the year prior? Something
Yes.
in that wording?
Yes.
Increase our percentage than the year prior, something?
Eligible
So at least we're setting a goal then.
Increase transfer eligibility.
How about
From the year prior.
increase the number of eligible transfers offered and accepted.
Wait, can you do a number though? Because you may not get offered as many. I think you have to do percentage. Increase your percentage of eligible transfers from the year prior.
Thank you.
Fine, got it. 8A and D.
Already well in process, and I think those are both achievable goals.
Everyone okay with those?
We're training with Richland Fire quite regularly, and we just entered into a joint response agreement for automatic aid on the multitude of calls with them as well. So big strikes there.
9 is aspirational.
Already in process there. We recently had a meeting. Public Safety Commission, you're invited by them in Lone Rock to introduce intercept mutual aid and auto aid agreements with them. Public Safety Committee has made a motion to recommend for approval and signing with the full board. Those documents, I need to go over with Attorney Wendell. They just want some language adjustments in those drafts. I also had a meeting this morning with Muscadine and Matt Tool, also interested in entering an intercept mutual aid and auto aid agreements with us.
So would it be appropriate to, rather than have a plan, develop plans? Because it's going to be a multiple agreements at this stage.
I would say continue building relationships and official agreements with neighboring communities.
All right, I'll get that. Is that wording acceptable? Say it again.
Continue building relationships and formal agreements with neighboring communities to assure continuity of service.
Continue building relationships.
I agree with that.
Relationships and
Formal agreement.
And formal agreements.
with neighboring communities.
Like what it says then.
To assure to strengthen EMS sustainability in the region.
Okay. Number 10.
That one, written.
Anybody have any objection? Number 11.
So this is my addition. This is definitely 2025, good time to start looking at where our call volumes are throughout the county, kind of the heat cap type thing, where these calls are happening, where our longest response times are, where our greatest need is. I think as we consider potentially staffing a second ambulance, does it make the most sense to keep both the ambulances responding out of the center, or is there an underserved part of the county in which we have an opportunity to have an ambulance outside of the city, providing coverage to other areas that we're covering?
For clarification purposes, can we say something besides a news station,
How about
Make it-
satellite?
So it's satellite or something
Yeah,
auxiliary.
because I was gonna say otherwise move this out to another year. I'd rather see the fire department study results. But maybe satellite stations?
Or, perform assessment of resource deployment. That doesn't tie us to any one thing, but where are resources at, where are they best served to the community?
Well, I get that. Say that again. Form,
Form assessment of resource deployment.
for optimal resource deployment, what'd you say?
Yes.
All right, yeah, it doesn't lock into a certain thing.
Correct.
Any other thing you would like to get on here before we rewrite it and bring it back? I don't feel comfortable voting on this because we don't have exact wording for things necessarily nailed down.
See, bring it back.
Okay. Number 8, discussion of challenges facing EMS providers. And if we closed an article that details some of the troubles that are being had in Chippewa County. I guess just to make sure that everyone is understanding what we're facing here in Richland County, which is we have a number of services that are providing, or they're able to meet their call volumes or their call requests for services by a small percentage of their staff. And that the problems that were detailed in this article are similar to the ones that we are seeing around our areas. And so we need to be structuring our service in a way that we can try to prevent or mitigate this happen when it happens in areas, services around ours, which is coming up. And getting some agreements like Mike has described with Avoca and other localities gets us, okay, now we're starting to cooperate. Now we're starting to share resources, and maybe we can work together and begin to solve some of this so that we don't get into a crisis stage with providing EMS to the people we're supposed to be serving. And we've done a lot to strengthen our service in the last several years. And hopefully we'll be there to help when some of these other services have problems meeting calls, answering calls. Mike, would you add something else?
Obviously, I wasn't planning on reading this, at the meeting, but.
We're not gonna read it.
Right. If you haven't already, I would certainly encourage you to do so. I think there's a lot of good information in there and kind of a good groundwork for moving forward, so. I have no questions.
Yeah.
I have a question, and I'm somewhat relating it to what we're talking about. Finding staff and that type of thing. Mike, when you are hiring your staff, what numbers are you working on your? Because what I'm getting at, in February of 2023, this group unanimously passed a motion to send to the county board to amend 1564, resolution 1564. And I don't know if they ever amended resolution 1564, but it gives you the numbers that this group passed are quite a bit higher than we're staffed at right now. I mean, when you gave us your list of the services staff, we have 6 full-time. And if they amended that resolution, you can hire up to 9 full-time. Part-time casual, we have 5. You could hire up to 10. Paid on call, we have 11. That resolution said you could hire up to 30. We have 2 drivers listed. That resolution said you could hire 5 drivers. Are you aware of that resolution? Is that the resolution you are working under? And did the county board ever amend that resolution? Maybe that's an attorney question.
I'm aware of that resolution, and I have that copy of the resolution in draft. I'm also aware of what has been budgeted position-wise.
Right, I mean, all of this, it is dependent upon if we can afford to do it, or if we actually need it at that time. But I just want to know if you're even aware of that.
And I would love to hire all the staff tomorrow, but you just beat me up over our payroll obligation. It's a lot.
No, I know, we
And
can't
I know
do it
that's
if
the
we can't
but the
afford
business-
it.
the
That's
business
why.
plan outlined different staffing, other resolutions. Staffing. It's very hard to figure that out. I recently had a meeting with finance, looking at previous budgets to see what was previously put forth. The verbiage within that other amended resolution, if it did pass, which I'm not certain if it did or not, says that JC can approve these positions at a time in which that the budget and structure of the organization allows and they feel fit. I haven't felt comfortable coming to you guys with that yet because number one, budget hasn't allowed. Number two, I can't figure out if that has passed through or not. And with everything that's going on right now, how busy we are, I have not had time to even start cracking the eggs.
Well, I mean, the county board, if they amended that resolution in 2020, they should have maybe told us they did or didn't amend it so that we know, Mike knows what numbers he is.
Mr. Chair,
You made the motion,
Just- yeah,
Julie, to
just
just
a second.
amend that. And Sharon seconded. And it passed unanimously.
Yeah, we'd have to look back at all the county board meetings to see if it was on an agenda and where it was and.
Well,
Do you know the
could
date?
we-
You know the date?
Could that be, I mean, some.
Yes.
The date.
Yeah.
Cheryl, did you, was that you?
February 15th.
it was, and I actually have the resolution 2323 in front of me here, and it says adopted per the adopting, amended by adopting the attached table. And that table was not adjusted to what we approved. So it does need to be adjusted. I can send, actually you can look it up yourself, but it's 2323. It was approved on March 21st, 2023.
Thank you.
The other thing I'll say too, this thing I did, because there's a lot of resolutions, a lot of contradicting stuff, policies, procedures, so yes, I don't know the answer. But I'm slowly but surely.
Yeah, I just want to know if you're
Yeah.
even aware of those numbers.
Yeah,
I
thanks.
did find out.
Okay. So. Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Say nay. Motion carries.